Hi everybody, welcome to All Games New and Old. I am David Rodriguez, and today I'm going to be reviewing G.I. Joe, the deck building game. This was released in 2021 from Renegade Game Studios and was designed by T.C. Petty III. Now, there's been iterations of G.I. Joe for a really long time, but the one that this one's based on is the cartoon that came out in 1983. I think that's what really made it popular and really made some iconic characters that people still love to this day, including myself. I've got the Baroness on my shirt. She's fantastic. Anyway, since that cartoon was out, there's been new versions of that same cartoon. There have been movies, there have been comic books, and of course there's been about a billion toys. I'm pretty sure the idea of the original cartoon was just to sell toys more than anything, but I loved that cartoon, and many other people did as well. I had a bunch of the toys. At first, my parents didn't want me to have any of the toys because they didn't like me, playing around with these guys running around with guns very much. But then I got one as like a Secret Santa thing, and that just opened the floodgates. And suddenly I was like obsessed with collecting as many as I could. I missed out on all the original great ones, which is kind of a bummer. But anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. But anyway, it is a really fantastic old cartoon series. I say that admitting that it may not hold up to this day, but really, really good. To tell you a little bit more about the theme of this, I actually managed to find a member of G.I. Joe. So let me... Hold on, citizen. I know exactly what you should do in this case. You should introduce me. I was just about to. My guest is... I'll handle it, buddy. I'm the Alphagamer from G.I. Joe. Right, but I was just... I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I'll answer them for you. Okay, but can you tell people... G.I. Joe is codename for America's highly trained Special Missions Force. Right, but... To defend human freedom against Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world. But what about the... Hold on there, pal. I know exactly what to do. I'll tell you about the game. In this game, you control a team of G.I. Joes going against Cobra. It's a deck building game. Yeah, I know, but... Glad I could clear up any confusion. Now you know. And knowing is half the... Let me handle this. And knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe. Right. Let's go to... Hey, just a suggestion. Maybe you should go to the gameplay video now. Alright, I have the game all set up to play here. I have my threat meter over here, which will move up this track as the game goes on, and it'll have different effects on your game as it gets up there. If you get it to the very top there, then that is one of the ways that you can lose. I have my deck of G.I. Joe cards and also the opening marketplace that was drawn randomly from the top. I have my story cards. This is for the first mission in the game. Now each one of the missions will have 3 cards that are always in there. It's the one with the kind of yellow border here. And then each part of each mission will have 2 cards that are drawn randomly from a possibility of 5 cards. I have my complication cards. I have the win and loss tokens, which as you defeat story missions, you will put those story missions underneath those, depending on whether you win or lose. It doesn't matter too much for the end of the game. Like, you could theoretically fail every mission to the last one and then defeat that one and you would still win. But there are some effects that can happen based on how many missions you've won or lost. Over here, I have the Cobra Trooper cards, the Cobra Battalion cards, the Cobra Officers, and then a Service Rifle Basic card, which is something that you can purchase tons of if you want to. There's a whole stack of them. So I have the hanger here, which is where you'll put vehicles as they pop up in your hand. This one is the vamp, which is always in play. I have this little marker here that will tell you what to do at the end of the round in case you forget. Now this particular card, the reserve card, that is only in play if you have fewer than 3 players. And I will tell you what that will let you do, but if you have 3 or more, you don't use this at all. So I've got my dice, and my starting hand is going to have 6 of these basic GI characters, and then it will also have a few other starter cards that will have various effects on the game. You randomly draw one of the G.I. Joe leaders for yourself. In this case, it is Scarlet. And then you'll also find Scarlet's promoted card. So that one. You can promote her as the game goes on, which will give her more skills and abilities. So anyway, this will go right into your starting deck, and you'll shuffle that up. And then you're pretty much ready to go. You draw 5 cards to form your starting hand, and you're all set. I'm actually going to draw different ones just so I can show you some stuff here. Technically, I guess this would be cheating, but we're going to pretend I'm not cheating. So, okay. Here we go. All right, now I'm going to pretend that I'm already one round into the game with however many players I would happen to have. When you're in the first round, you don't have any story cards out. It gives you a chance to get kind of started on recruiting or what have you. So when you get to the beginning of a round, if there are no story cards out, you'll take the first one off the stack and put it here. And you'll notice that the whole stack is face up, so you'll know what the next one that's coming out will be, which is great because each story mission has some skills written on here. I'll show you. Down here at the bottom, try to get that to focus for you, if it'll let me. Camera issues. Okay, anyway, it needs marksman or tech. And I shouldn't say needs, you can take on the mission without those, but if you have a G.I. Joe that has those particular skills, that'll help you out. But you can look on the one that's coming up, and that might help you decide who to recruit if you have somebody in there that will match some of those skills needed. The way the turn progresses is once you've refilled that, you'll then see if there's any start of turn effects on any of the cards that are out and resolve those. And then you'll go to the action phase. Now, you do have to do this in a certain order. A lot of deck building games, you can kind of, recruit or attack or do them in any order you want to. This one, you have to do missions first if you're gonna do them at all. And you certainly don't have to, but you can. So if you wanted to take on a mission, let's say this one. Oh, and I just realized there's something I forgot. So when you draw a mission card and it has the little red square here with a number in it, you're gonna draw that many complication cards face down. And whenever you go on this mission, those are going to flip up and you're going to see what kind of complications have arisen from the game here. So anyway, if you're going to go on a mission, what you're going to do is you're going to pick a Joe to start a mission. Right now, I just have the basic one. I've got Scarlet in my hand. We'll say Scarlet's going to start it. So she's going to start the mission. Now, if it is a group mission, like all the story ones are and the officers are, you can then have other players, if they want to, contribute to the mission and put one of their Joes into the mission as well. So if somebody else has a skill that would be useful on a mission, they can add that person to the mission and go on it. The only limitation is you do have to pick a vehicle to go in. So in this case with the Vamp, it'll hold 4 people. So you can't have more than 4 Joes unless you have a specific card that lets you break that rule. So if I'm going to have her go on this mission, I'll go ahead and pick her, and since I don't have all the other hands out, I'm going to go ahead and pick these 3 basic Joes. Now, she has the martial arts skill, which is great, not really useful for this mission, but let's say this mission did want the martial arts skill. So basically what you do is if you have that skill, you're going to add however many dice the skill level's at. So for her, right now it's 2. So I'd have 2 dice for her. Now, these other guys, they don't have a particular skill. They're very basic. So each one of them will only have 1 die. Now, if I had other, more named Joes in my hand that didn't have the skill, I could play them, but they would only get 1 die as well. They're still skilled in general, but they don't have the specific skills that would be especially beneficial to the mission. That's why you want to get the skills necessary to go on it. It gives you more dice to roll. So when I decide I'm going to go ahead and go on this attack or this mission, I can see that on this one, I will need 4 successes to defeat it. And with the story missions, you only get 1 chance. You either succeed and you'll get the bonus from it, or you'll fail and you'll get the penalty from it, which is pretty rough. So if I go on this mission, I'm going to flip these 2 complications over. And there's a couple different kinds here. This one it's a side mission, precision strike. And what that means is that this is a special mission that is going to go to one particular player. And you can pick collectively which player that goes to. Usually you want to pick the one that can best deal with it. But that one is not a mission that you can team up on. Any of those ones that just say side mission, it's really just for one person. So we would go ahead and we'd pass that to the person who feels like they can handle it. They would have to deal with that at some point. This card just says put Major Blood into play. So you're going to look through your officer cards until you find Major Blood. Oh, he's right there at the bottom, of course. And he is also a group mission. He has skills that are useful against him. And the officers all have an effect on the gameplay. So this one says, at the start of each player's turn, place 1 Cobra Battalion on an uncovered card in the lineup with a cost that is 5 or higher. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put him, I'll put him there. We can go ahead and get rid of this because we don't really need to know that came out at some point. There are different levels of complications cards. So for the first act, there's like Act 1 complication cards, and there's also Act 2 and Act 3 complication cards. So it does change as you go on through the game. All right, so but I'm going on this mission right now. So I'm gonna have 5 dice. So that'll let me take these dice and let me show you if I can. So there's 3 sides that have this circle, and that is a failure. There's 2 sides that have the single star. I'm trying to get that to zoom in over. 3 sides that have a single star, and 1 side that has a double star, and that counts as 2 successes. So you're gonna take these. Focus, camera, focus, you can do it. There it goes, okay. You're gonna roll them and you're gonna see how many successes you got. So in this case, I got 4 successes. I have, this one has 2, and then 3 and 4. So I'm gonna look on this and it's gonna say that my bonus is that the threat meter goes down to. Now right now, well, it would have been at least on the first slot, but it can't go back down into this blue area, like the very first starting section. It can never go back there. So I probably wouldn't get much of a bonus if I did that right now, but I would go ahead and take that and I would put it underneath that success token, and that one's done. Now that I have done that, the vehicle returns back to the hangar if it's the vamp. If it is a different vehicle, like for instance, if I had this one and I played it, this one would then go back to your discard pile. Essentially, it is refueling until the next time you get it into your hand. As soon as you get into your hand, you can put that in the hangar. Now, you might notice this has something that some of the others don't. This one has a little picture of a ship here. There's also a plane and a tank and one other that I'm forgetting. Anyway, the point is that when you go on missions that have that same marker on them, you will get the bonus, a bonus that is down here next to that same icon. So that can be kind of handy. If you can get it worked out where you're using the right vehicle for the job, you'll get an extra bonus. You can use any vehicle for any mission and that's fine, but you do get a bonus for using the right vehicle. I come back to the mission, and now that I've done the mission, I can choose to recruit. And each card is gonna have a recruit value that is equal to whatever number is in the star. So I think all these are probably just 1. Actually, this one is a 0 because this is a special card. So this one says if you defeated a side mission this turn, you can move the threat marker down 1. That can be pretty useful for sure. But right now, it looks like I have 4 recruit. So simply enough, I can look at the cards here, and I could pick one that has a cost of 4 or less. So I could pick this one, for instance, and put it differently enough. Oops, I had my deck face up. You actually put these on top of your deck instead of in your discard pile, which is different than a lot of other deck builders. So you know the next hand you draw, the cards you just bought, whether it's one or multiple ones, are going to come up. So I'll put that one there. These ones that I use will go into the discard, and then I'll go around the table, and there will be other turns until we get to the end of the round. At the end of the round, you can look to see what you have to do. So you have to activate any penalties, starting with the story mission. So some of them will have something that happens at the end of every turn. Then you go to card effects. So if there's a card out that has an effect like a mission or a commander or what have you, you'll then activate those whenever they are. Then you will do whatever negative effects are on the threat meter. So if it's in the green, it's going to move up 1. If it is in the yellow, you'll put a Cobra Battalion out. I'll show you that in a minute. The red doesn't really have anything because I guess you're already in enough trouble as is at that point. And then you are going to also raise the threat meter again. So if you're in the green section, it gets out of there pretty fast. But if you're in here, you add the battalion and then you go ahead and move it up 1. So pretty nasty. You want to really keep an eye on the threat meter because it can suddenly get into dangerous territory pretty quickly. Oh, I forgot to say, when you do recruit somebody, you can replace that character immediately. Now, that I mentioned the Cobra Battalions. That's these cards over here. And so what happens when you are told to put these out for whatever reason, you're going to take one and you're going to put it on the leftmost card in the marketplace unless it tells you to do something different, which sometimes it does. And this counts as a little side mission. It only needs 2 skill to get through, and any 1 skill can be used against it, which is great. But if you ever have all the Joes covered up with Cobra Battalions, that is another lost condition. So you don't want that to happen. These are things that anyone can go on, but it is a side mission, so you cannot team up unless you have a card that changes that rule. So you don't want that. Another card that you can sometimes be told to take are the Cobra Troopers. These just go into your discard pile and they show up in your hand, taking up space. They're a side mission that only needs a 1 success, but in the meantime, they're kind of in your way, so they can be kind of a pain. So one thing I didn't show you yet is this reserve. Again, that is for only if you're playing with fewer than 3 people. So let me go back to the hand I had. Let's say I decided, well, I don't need this right now because my threat meter is not high enough that lowering it's going to help. What I can do, before I've done anything else, I can choose to put that into reserve. And then I'll play out my turn as I showed you. I'd put these aside into my discard. I drop my hand back to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then whatever card I put in reserve, I can take out and add to my hand. They do that for the lower player counts. They do that solo as well because it just helps it be more survivable and gives you a little more flexibility. When you have more players than that, you have quite a lot of flexibility because they can all contribute to various missions. So a little more versatility in what you can do. So now I've got a bigger hand with some more options available to me, and I can do that pretty much any turn, and I'll always get that card back when I draw up at the end of the round. Now, because because the story area is empty, I will then draw the next story card. This one, again, has 2 complications it needs to put out. I will put those out. And then I would continue. Now, if any complication cards were brought out that would stay in effect, if you defeat the story card without defeating the complication, those complications would stay and you'd still add whatever complications the card asked you. So that could get kind of nasty. You don't want those to pile up for too long. And this is basically how it goes. You keep going until you get to the final mission card. And that one, when you defeat it, you win. This card doesn't go away when you fail. It'll stay there, but it doesn't make the threat tracker go up. So you probably still only have so many chances. And usually by the time you get to there, your threat meter is pretty high, at least if you're me, it is. So anyway, that is basically how the game works. It's not too hard to get a handle on, especially if you've played other deck builders. A lot of similarities. Just the weirdest thing for me is taking the cards I purchased and putting it on top of my deck. That's not something I've seen before, and it does throw me off a lot. I always have to remind myself, oh, I forgot to tell you how to promote your leader. So if you ever have a hand with your leader in it, and you have at least, in this case, 6 recruit, I think they're all 6 recruit, then you could say, well, I'm going to promote the leader. So you'd move, in my case, Scarlet out of the game, put her there. Now this Scarlet will go, again, face down on top of your deck, and she'll be in your next hand, and she'll continue to be in your deck for the rest of the game. So that's how you promote the leader. And that is basically it. I think I've said that's basically it a few times, but I keep thinking of other weird little things, so forgive me on that. Nonetheless, again, not super complicated, but that's how the game functions. So with all that being said, let me get to our final thoughts. All right, I hope that gameplay overview has been helpful to you and learning how the game is played. So now we're going to talk about our final thoughts, starting with the artwork. I really, overall, I like the art in this game. Now, that being said, it is a little bit all over the place because I'm pretty sure that a lot of this art was just ripped directly from previous media they've put out. Some of it looks like it might be from the old comic book all the way up to, some of it's, I think, from the pictures that are actually on the packaging for the old action figures, and some of it is from more modern comics. I'm pretty sure some of the art here is from the comic artist J. Scott Campbell, who just has a very unique art style that I'm pretty familiar with. So there's a lot of different art in this game, which could probably be a little jarring going back and forth. All of it is either, though, art that I really like or art that is at least nostalgic to me. So for me, overall, art's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah. Overall, I think the art's good in this game. I'm not super familiar with G.I. Joe, and so I don't have the nostalgia of going through all the different decades of G.I. Joe artwork in this game. And so it does throw me off a little bit, but since we have a lot of other games that do that as well, or we have a few other games that do that kind of thing as well, I'm at least used to it in our gameplay, so it doesn't throw me off that much, but I could see someone that's kind of newer to board games kind of being thrown off by the different variation in degrees in artwork in this game.
Yeah, for sure.
For the components, I think the components are decent. The cards are a little bit thinner, I think, than some of the other deck builder games that we have. They're not bad, they're just a little bit thinner, but they're easy to shuffle. And the cardboard is all good, heavy cardboard stock. I like the tokens, the threat meter is good. I like the bigger cards for the story missions. It helps, make sure that you're recognizing which one, and it makes the reading those cards a little easier too.
Yeah, those might be amongst my favorite things. I really like the story cards. They're nice. Those cards are really nice. They're super slick cards, just nice and big, so you can see everything on them, get the details, and have like a cool picture of what's sort of going on. It just kind of helps things overall. Yeah, no real complaints about anything. Like she said, the cards they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing to write home about either. They're just they all work, and all the tokens are good as well. Now, when I ordered it, I did a pre-order, and so it came with this little bonus box that had another G.I. Joe leader, Don Moreno, and then it had like a 3D hanger you could put together to put your vehicles in. And the way it works is it has slots in the top that you could slot your vehicle cards into, and it looks pretty cool, but you either have to put them in upside down so you can still read what the cards bonuses are, or you can't really read the card bonuses are, at least not very well. So
it's something that looks cool but not functional.
Yeah, exactly. So other than just when I first put together to see what it was like, I pretty much always just use the regular hanger thing that's in there. So I think that bonus thing it's available separately. So you could get it if you want that extra G.I. Joe character, or if that 3D hanger sounds cool to you and you're not bothered by lifting them up to see what they are. It's not that big a deal. I just kind of prefer not to do it. So yeah, that's a thing you could do. I do want to talk a little bit about the rule book. In general, like, the way it's written is clear, but there are some things that it's a little bit vague about, and there's things that are just kind of missing. So one of the ones that really stood out to me is there's a couple cards that are of Joe's that will have like a yellow box, and that equals 2 wild skill. Okay, I know what 2 wild skill is. Yellow box, and there's one that has a red box too. So I've been playing it as that means that when your threat meter is in the yellow or the red, then you get those particular bonuses. I think that's probably right. But there are cards, like the leader cards, I believe, have like the little G.I. Joe symbol that's in the bottom with a yellow background. And if you have a Cobra Trooper in it, that'll have a red background. So maybe you get those bonuses when you have a leader or when you have to deal with a Cobra Trooper. I don't know, because it's not anywhere in the book. It would literally take like 2 lines to explain what that is in the book, and it's not there. Like, I went looking, and I was like, okay, there's nothing about this. It's just, there's some stuff in there that's a little unclear, and so it's kind of a matter of like, well, playing it this way makes the most sense to me, and that's probably what they meant, and that's fine, because we've played enough games that I think we could probably nail that. If someone's picking up as their first game, they're going to be like, well, they might not really know what to do with that. So that's kind of a bummer as far as that goes. Again, most of it is fine. There's just a couple little things where I'm like, I don't know why that information was omitted here. It seems kind of like a strange thing. So moving from the components to the theme, I think they really did a pretty great job on the theme here. There's 2 story scenarios. They're both, I believe, ripped from the cartoons. I know for sure the first one is, because I've started watching some of the cartoons again just to, get my mind back on it. And I know that first mission thing is straight up from the first several episodes of the show. That's kind of neat. It has a little storyboard about what's happening at the top. I like that the different Joes have different skills that they're good at, because that's very in keeping with how the show was. This particular character is good at stealth, and this one's good at marksmanship, and this one's good with computers and all that kind of stuff. So it makes a lot of sense, and it really does harken back to the show, which is cool. I like that the missions sometimes need, or I guess you could say the mission has a disadvantage if a certain skill is used on it, of sorts. So I think that makes sense too, because depending on what the mission is, that can kind of make sense. I think it's neat that you have to send your Joes forward in a vehicle, and that some missions, if you take the right vehicle, you have a bonus, because if it's one where it's like, more of like an air attack kind of situation, if you take a jet, then you'll have a little bit of a bonus to your rolls or whatever it is. I think that's pretty smart and pretty well done, and well in keeping with G.I. Joe stories.
From an outsider's perspective, I think they did a good job of incorporating the theme. I don't really have a lot to compare it to, but just in playing the game, I could feel the theme in there. I like that I like the vehicles, and that, different vehicles have different amount of Joes that you can put in there. Like a motorcycle, you can only have one Joe. helicopter, you can have two. I like that, certain Joes get advantage for taking out certain vehicles. And it the vehicles and the Joes connection makes a lot of sense to me and seems very thematic. There's some of it that goes in. Some of it goes into the gameplay, and so I'm gonna kind of just shift from the theme into the gameplay now. Some of it doesn't make sense to me as far as theme and the gameplay goes, and maybe it's because I'm not that familiar with G.I. Joe. Maybe it's just the gameplay. Some of it, like the Cobra battalions that cover up your purchasing area, like, I don't understand why that's happening. And it just frustrates me.
I'm assuming that, like, somehow, like, the Joes that are up there that you haven't, like, brought anything are getting tied up with the...
Yeah,
I don't know.
They're in our way to get to them.
I don't... Sure.
That's the only thing I could think of, is that they're, like, in between us and them.
Yeah.
The main thing with the theme and the gameplay that bothered, I think, both of us is... it has to do with incorporating the dice play. You can have the best elite team that you need for a mission and going in with, like, the best scenario you can have, and you can still fail the mission really horribly because you just had bad luck of rolling dice. And, like, that kind of shatters that, like, immersiveness into the game to me. It's like, we only needed 4 successes and we were rolling 18 dice. How did we fail that mission? Like, that some of that stuff didn't make it, like, it really kind of took me out of the game. So other parts of the gameplay, the threat meter, I like the threat meter. I like the idea of the threat meter, I should say. But it feels like the threat meter can go up super fast, and there's not a lot to reduce it back down. And since one of the end game scenarios is it getting to the top of the threat mirror, that seems like it's a little unbalanced. There, and there's just a few other things that, like, there's stuff that happens that just kind of there's a lot going on in this game, and I'll go into more details on my score of that. But there's a lot of moving parts in this game.
Yeah, I'll definitely talk about the dice situation a little more on my final thoughts. But at its core, it's kind of a simplistic deck building game. In a way. It does have a lot of little, like, tweaks here and there, which is generally a good thing. But, like, you're not really, like, comboing your cards. It's just, do you have this number of skill? Cool. Or maybe you'll get this card and it'll let you do some kind of reroll situation or something. That's cool, too. It's not as complicated in terms of your strategy in that way. It's not like some where you have to, like, well, you got to make sure I play out this card first and that'll activate this other one. And all this. Like, no, you just have however many dice you have, and that's what it is. And that's fine. It doesn't need to be some super crazy complicated thing. And especially with a fairly well-known property like this, they probably want to pull in people that are not... that may not necessarily have played a game like this before, so it's probably better that they don't make it overly complicated, although I do agree there's kind of a lot of different, like, little things going on. I don't think any one of them is that hard to get a handle on. If you are kind of newer to gaming, it might kind of seem like a lot of crazy little pieces, but that's just kind of what it is. So anything else I have to say about the gameplay, I'm going to be saying in the final score section of this, so let me get to that. So I want to get this out of the way first. I have enjoyed my plays of this, and I think a lot of that is because I do love this property so much. And I think if you love, and I mean if you love G.I. Joe, and you are completely okay with a high degree of randomness, I think this could well be a 7. I love G.I. Joe, and I am okay with randomness in my game. This is a few steps past what I generally would prefer. I still did enjoy it. I'll probably play it again. But okay, if both of those things are not true for you, if like one of those is not true for you, this drops dramatically. I love deck building games. It's probably my favorite mechanism in board games. Absolutely love it to death because I like a little bit of randomness, and deck building games give you that. But at the same time, you're creating the pool that randomness draws from. And so, as you go through a deck building game, your deck gets better and better, and eventually you start getting these amazing hands of cards that let you do things that feel fantastic. And what G.I. Joe, the deck building game, does is it lets you do that too. And then you roll dice, and it takes it away from you. It might not, obviously. But as she was saying, you can have the perfect team. You can have people that have a 4 skill, and everybody in that team has something they need for that mission, and they go on that mission, they roll those dice, and you could just need 4 successes and not make it. Because half the sides on those dices are misses. And while one of the sides of successes has 2 successes technically, I'm still saying this is about 50-50 on each dice. And you're supposed to be this elite squad, right? Shouldn't you be better at your job? Shouldn't we feel like, hey man, we've got the perfect team. We figured out the perfect Joe team to deal with the Baroness doing the whatever, and shouldn't you have a better than 50-50 chance when you do that? I mean, and yeah, okay, I know math, number of dice, etc., the number of successes, yeah, I get it. But the problem is, I don't know if I actually succeed more than I have failed, but I do know that when you do manage to succeed in this, whether it's because you took the perfect team and you succeeded by a lot, or you took a team that you think might barely make it if you're super lucky and you do it then, and even though those do feel good, those don't feel as good as it feels bad when you take the perfect team and you fail it and you botch it completely. And especially if it's a story mission and that causes all kinds of other bad things to happen, or actually a lot of the missions, if you don't succeed at them, even though they won't necessarily go away, they could have some kind of a bad effect, or they'll just continue having a negative effect on your game. And it's you just gave it your best damn shot, and because of randomness, even though you had everything that you tried to build your deck to do, you and it's not even just you, it's you and everybody at the table, possibly if it's a group mission, and you still fail, oh my god. I first played this solo, and like I said, I enjoyed it, but I'm this seems like it could be a real fatal flaw. And I was hoping maybe that I was wrong, and that, since, you don't you didn't watch G.I. Joe as a kid or whatever, if you played it and you're oh no, this is actually really cool, and I like that, I'd be okay, so it's not as big a flaw as I think. But it's as big a flaw as I think. And she can tell you more about her view on that, but I've tried to figure out ways to make this better. I've seriously thought about taking a Sharpie and making one of those successes on each side into a little star, so that at least you're more likely to succeed, because it should be, because you're freaking G.I. Joe. Or even 2 of them. Something needs to be done, either more successes on those dice, or the missions overall, or the game has to be overall easier to account for the fact that you have such a poor chance of actually succeeding no matter who you take with you, which, again, doesn't make a dang bit of sense for who you're supposed to be. I want to love this game. I want to love it so much. You don't understand. I'm worried now that Renegade, who I love, I think they do great stuff, they're going to either, this is either going to be wildly successful, and they're going to say, oh man, the people who like G.I. Joe are totally okay with high degree of randomness, so let's make sure every game we put out with G.I. Joe is super freaking random. Or we're just going to get out that that's how it is, and people aren't going to get it, and it's not going to sell, and they're going to be well, let's not make G.I. Joe stuff because it doesn't have the public interest. Now, I'm not saying that they're not smart. Hopefully they will see that is not the case, and they will make future G.I. Joe things that will be awesome and exciting, because I think there's a ton that you could do with this franchise. And if any of those games come out, I will probably not play this one anymore, because this is going to be now specifically for when I want a G.I. Joe thing. It's not going to be for when I want a deck building game, because there's a lot of deck building game. Every deck building game I own, and that's quite a few, I like better mechanically than this one. Every single one, and it's not close. It's not. I like the theme of this one, maybe better than some of those others, maybe, depending on the day, but mechanically, no, it's not close. So when I want a G.I. Joe specific thing, yeah, I'll probably break this game out again. I'm sure I will, because I did enjoy it, despite its overwhelmingly upsetting flaws. But yeah, when a better thing comes out, whether it's a different game from them or somebody else, or a video game, or a really good choose your own adventure G.I. Joe book, I don't know, like almost any, like, this is gonna go away as soon as something better G.I. Joe comes out. I won't need this for the G.I. Joe fix anymore. So getting back to scores again. If you love both those things, G.I. Joe and high degree of randomness, 7. If either one of those things are things you don't like, either one, or don't love, if you just don't love them, okay, 5. If you don't like or love either of those things, I think this is a 3. And I hate that I'm saying those numbers about a game that I was extremely excited about. I can't even tell you how excited I was about this game, and how frustrated I am that I think the people that will enjoy it is a much smaller number than it had to be. Whew. All right, so I'm going to take some deep breaths, and she's going to tell you what she thought. Whew. I'm going to cool off. Oh, God, blood boiling.
So for me, again, I don't have the nostalgia going into this game, so, and I'm also a player that, like, the theme can help or hinder a game, but I really am more about the mechanics of a game when I'm looking at a game, whether I like it or not. And the mechanics are just, they're kind of all over the place in this game, and it's too random for me. It feels like they didn't do enough editing of the mechanics when they were designing this game to me. There's just so much different things happening, and some of them they really don't make sense when you put it all together, or it makes the game extremely hard. And I like hard games. Like, I like co-op games that are a challenge. Those are one of my favorite games. But the way they design this game, I don't have that fun level of challenge. It's just frustrating. And the dice are a really big part of that. I do think that it would help if half the sides were not fails, then maybe it would be a little bit better. But you already have some randomness with a deck building game as it is, because you have to buy the right cards, you have to shuffle your deck and get the right cards in your hand. So there's already a level of randomness to deck building games as it is. And then you're adding on top of that a close to 50-50 shot at dice rolling. It makes this game so completely random, and to me that's not fun. There's some other things, like I said, the threat mirror track, that feels like it, and I think the threat meter track would be better at a higher count, because normally when it goes up, it's at the end of a round. So for a 2-player game like we played, that track went up really fast, and there wasn't enough things for us to counter it to make it go down. The battalions coming out and covering up your purchasing area. I know that there's other deck builders that have a similar mechanic, but it felt like this moved really fast. And so it was almost too hard to deal with because of how fast that came out, how fast those came out. So it almost feels like they took two teams trying to design, like they had two teams that they're like, hey, we're doing a G.I. Joe deck builder game, go at it. And then they brought the two teams together at the last minute. And so some of the mechanics, when they're put all together, it just doesn't work or doesn't make sense. So for that and not having the nostalgia, for me, I'm going to give this game a 4. It wasn't so horrible that I never want to play it again. If we had someone come over and they really wanted to give it a try, I would play it with them. But it's definitely not a game that I'm gonna go, I want to play that game. So, like I said, for me, it's gonna be a 4.
Yeah. So, yeah, there you have it. There is, as I said, there's going to be a certain group of people that this is going to be just fine for, and they'll like it a lot. If it was slightly less random, I'd probably like it a lot more than I do. And like I said, I will still probably play it again. I probably will not make you play it again, unless, again, like you said, there's friends over and they want to try G.I. Joe. Fine. I'll probably play it solo when I specifically want that a G.I. Joe specific fix. But, and if you're the kind of person that does, or your group super loves G.I. Joe, yeah, give it a shot. Like, you might really dig it. It's not a game without merit. It's a game that has, I think, a lot of cool ideas in it, actually. Just all put together, it just...
Yeah. A lot of cool ideas, but I think too many. Like, they didn't edit enough of it out to make the game coherent enough to be enjoyable.
Yeah, maybe if they do a second edition someday, they can, I don't know, tidy some stuff up and it'll be fantastic. Who knows? But anyway, that's it. That's our scores. Mine is 7-5-3, depending on the factors that I mentioned, and hers was a 4. So I hope this video has helped you decide whether or not this game is for you. If you have enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe and click the little bell icon so you can know about the next time we put out a video. Otherwise, look forward to seeing you all around the table again in All Games New and Old.
Bye.
I wonder if Dad has Monopoly.
Hold on there, small child.
Alphagamer!
That's right, it's me, Alphagamer. You're way too young to spend hours and hours of your time being sad and frustrated with a bad game. Here, why don't you play this?
Mommy and Daddy say that's not a great game.
What? Oh.
Now you know, and knowing's half the battle.
All Games New and Old. Okay. All right.